and joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around.
Well. Welcome, my friends, to this fine little radio program called Smoking and Toasting. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are in the studio for show number 141, and we have a special guest on the show today. Dave, it's Mitton, right?
Mitton.
Is how you say it?
Like the Mitton.
Like the Mitton. All right.
Spelled differently.
Dave is a global brand ambassador for Canadian whiskey. From Corby Brands.
Yeah.
You gotta love that as a job.
It sounds pretty made up. Like
Yeah, it does.
When
It
you're
totally does.
When you're going through crossing borders, you're going through customs at airports, and someone asks what you do, you have to pause for a minute and say this is actually true, and maybe show them
and then
your
they
cards.
go, no, really, what do you really do? Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Well, so we're going to talk Canadian whiskey on the show today, and this will be the first time we've had Canadian whiskey on the show.
Oh, great.
But this will be the first time we've ever done a show that deals with it, a little more in depth. So excited about that. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, and BB Lemon on Washington Ave, and a brand new location coming soon. So the BB empire is expanding.
It's becoming a real thing.
That's a good thing. And you know what I think it is? I think Jeremiah just needs more places to drink. That's what I think it is. That's what I think it is.
I don't get to drink on this side of town.
And he is a fun guy to hang out and drink with, so we'll do that again very soon. Dave Mitton is our special guest this week, but we do want to take a moment and say special thanks to our guests from last week, Brandon Luna with McAuliffe Cigars, Jenny Lynn Hunter with Drew Estate, and Alan Denny with E.P. Carrillo. Alan, of course.
He just pops up everywhere.
Yeah, who nobody
and
cares
he's totally
about,
ahead of Chris Hart now.
Yes, he is. So that should be interesting to watch how that plays out. I think Chris Hart has been traveling, so I don't know if he's been able to keep up.
I totally expect him to
with whether or not he's behind on appearances, but something to look forward to. So we'll be tasting some Canadian whiskeys from the Corby line today, and we're looking forward to that. We also have a couple of really interesting beers, I think, Ian. Our friends at No Label, I say our friends, I don't really know anyone there. I just think of them as my friends because of
their beers are very friendly.
The fact that they have friendly beers. That's right. No Label in Katy, Texas. They have released a Mojito Lime Goza, and so I like mojitos. I like Goza. This seems like an easy.
I would say
fit,
that
right?
sounds like a terrible beer until you say Goza, and then you think, okay, I can see Mojito Lime going with that style of beer.
I mean, we'll see. I think it's going to be a challenge, to be honest with you, to
Well,
bring those flavors together. But
Goza's already a little bit sour.
Yes, and I do like that. Bear Bottle Brew Company from San Francisco has released an IPA called Secret Path to Paradise. I am down with this path, and we'll be tasting that on the show as well. Also, as wonderful and flowery as that sounds, then we have Smog City Brewing with their Infinite Wishes Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout. So those will be our beers we'll be checking out.
That
today.
sounds good to me.
Yeah, very good. So what else? We've got all kinds of things going on in the news. Depending on what we have time to get to, we'll share this with you. But one of these, for our listeners and viewers who are in Texas, Beer to Go is just about law now in Texas. It was passed unanimously in the Texas Senate. Beer to Go means that breweries and brew pubs will be able to sell you six-packs, growlers on your way out.
That's awesome.
Currently, only brew pubs can do that, but not breweries themselves. It depends on the classification, which has a lot to do with how many barrels they produce, and all these other things. So anyway, it's a good thing for breweries and brew pubs. It's a good thing for craft beer.
Yes.
Maybe not so much for brick and mortar retailers who are worried they are going to lose sales because of this. But this is already legal in almost every state in the country,
Yeah.
and it does not seem to have had negative impact on sales at your local, your local beer shop or
because if you're closer,
whatever.
Well, here's the deal: if that's the beer you want, and you're closer to the brewery, you just go by the brewery and get the beer. That's a nice thing, right? But most people aren't that close to a brewery, so most people are still going to buy their beers at the HEB, or they're going to buy their beer at the grocery store, at the local liquor store, or wherever here.
What I like about it is that sometimes you'll go to the brewery, you'll be there, just for the evening with friends, or you've gone to get something to eat or whatever, and you taste something that isn't available in stores, and you're like, this is really
really
good.
take that home.
I would love to be able to take some of this home, and it'll be a lot easier to do
This will
that
allow
now,
breweries to do more of those kind of things as well.
That's absolutely right.
Because now they have an outlet for it, instead of, hey, we can make a bigger batch of this because you can
Sure,
take it home,
that's
versus we only did so many kegs of this because we can only sell it.
Speaking of which, I'm bummed because one of my favorite IPAs in the world, I think, was a seasonal for Odell's, and I think it's all gone now.
Aww.
And that was the what was it? The mule picker? What was it? The hot picker?
Tree shaker.
What is it?
Tree shaker.
No, it's not the tree shaker. That one's still around. It's the
Wolf Picker.
Wolf Picker. Thank you. The Wolf Picker IPA from Odell, which we had on the show, and man, it was one of those things where every time I would see it, I would buy it. Suddenly, it's no longer on the show.
Odell's a great brewery. One
really
of my
are.
mainstays is
It
their
was-
90 shilling. That's
90
such
shilling
a great
is
Scotch
wonderful.
ale.
It's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. So, anyway, if you happen to see Wolf Picker still around anywhere, let me know, because I'll drive over and
Rush over and pick some up.
snag it. Yeah. So anyway, it's been an interesting week. Maxim Magazine has named 10 great cigars to smoke right now, and Thrillist has put together a list of 21 beers you need to be drinking this summer. So we'll have some lists to go through. So it's going to be, I think, a really fun and interesting show, and I'm really excited about Canadian whiskey. I feel like Canadian whiskey maybe doesn't get some of the recognition that it deserves in the U.S. It's not really thought of maybe the same way as American whiskeys or whiskeys from the UK.
Well,
So-
and it gets beat up in the stores here
Japan,
too, because
yeah.
we have a whole section of Texas whiskey now.
Right, of course. And
Which
that-
means Canadian whiskey gets shoved into one little corner.
Right,
of
and
the aisle.
that may or may not be fair. So we'll do some tasting and see how we weigh in on that. So,
That's right.
so it's been a crazy week for me, and I assume for you as well, Ian. But did you have an opportunity to smoke anything interesting? This
So
week?
crazy week, I'm on school schedule right now, so I had most of the week off.
Oh,
so it
good
hasn't
for
been
you.
that crazy. I've been enjoying myself a little bit.
Good, and I would imagine maybe
I got to be working next week, but you know how it is.
you had a time for a few more cigars than normal. Huh?
I did. I actually got up early today. I don't know what happened to me. It was very strange. So I had time to smoke a cigar over at Casa de Monte Cristo. That was a lot of fun. I picked out a Caldwell cigar, one that I think you may or may not have reviewed on the show at some point in time. It's called the Tea.
The tea,
Which was
yes.
originally called the Truth, but then they had to change the name, so now it's just the Tea. This was a collaboration with Matt Booth, Caldwell, and AJ Fernandez.
A three-way
three-way
blending, yes.
And I will tell you, they formed like Voltron. It was a delicious cigar. This is a 5x54 Robusto box press. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, meaning all the wrapper, binder, and filler are all Nicaraguan. It's a Habano wrapper. The appearance on this wrapper was very dark chocolate, very firm and uniform all the way across, smooth cigar. Overall, the pre-light sniff on this, I didn't pick up a lot on the pre-light sniff. I got coffee, leather, and hay, a little bit going on there. The pre-light draw, I used a punch. It had about a medium draw on it, not enough to make me concerned that it was going to be too tight or anything like that, but not effortless. And I got a lot of leather and barnyard kind of flavors from the pre-light draw. The initial light, pepper, a little bit of sawdust, like wood kind of flavors, not certainly in any kind of bad way. Leather, nuttiness, like a cashew kind of sweetness right off the front, and a little tangy, fruity kind of flavor going on in the background was really nice. The first third of this cigar, sweet, nutty, and fruity, like right off the bat, it just developed into this really sweet cigar. Pepper was a little there, a little bitter chocolate in the background, coffee, especially on the retrohale. Had a perfect burn, solid ash. The second third of this cigar, chocolate, nutty. The tangy, fruity stuff kind of backed off for the second third of this cigar. Leather and coffee were there. A little bit of light pepper was there the whole time. It was, again, a perfect burn, solid ash. I really liked the way this cigar developed. The sweet, fruity, and nutty flavors came right back for the last third of this. Like, they cycled all the way out and then came back in. And the chocolate came up a whole lot more. There was a little more oaky kind of flavor. And coffee.
This really sounds pretty amazing.
It was a great cigar.
Yeah.
It was I don't mean to give away the PVQ or anything, but it had a perfect burn, solid ash. I smoked it way down till it was tiny. I gave it a 6 on the price versus quality at an $11 cigar. It was not a cheap cigar.
Yeah, so a 6 is a great rating.
But I would have been happy with this, paying even a couple dollars more. I'd have been like, at this price point, it's a great cigar. So I enjoyed the whole event of that cigar. It was
price
fantastic.
to quality, Dave, is something we do on the show, mostly with cigars. We'll occasionally do it with other things, where we basically say, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you got exactly what you paid for, if that's how you perceived what it was you were sampling, that's a 5. So anything that rates above a 5 means I wouldn't have been disappointed if this had been even if I paid even more for this based on what it was. So you're saying at an $11 cigar, even if you paid like $13 for it,
I'd have been perfectly
you
happy
still would have
with
been
that,
perfectly happy. So it's much harder for expensive cigars to get above a 5 than it is for sometimes you smoke something cheaper. Like last week I was talking about a really cheap cigar. It was like, it was $2.25. It was way better than that. So it was easier for that to get a 6 or a 7 than for an $11 cigar. So anyway, I always like to point that out because, again, if I'm going to drop $11 for a cigar, which I'm not afraid to do, but I want to make sure I'm not missing the boat on it. You know what I mean?
And at $11 a pop, that's not insubstantial. And
no,
I don't know who you work for, but my boss, an $11 cigar.
I've got to ask, what do you normally like? I get it in the evenings. You're having a nice cigar. You're having it with a Cuban rum. You're having it with a cognac, a nice whiskey. In the mornings, when you're having a cigar like today, do you have it with a nice coffee?
Yeah,
you go to your
cigars
favorite coffee house.
Great with coffee.
Yeah.
Cigars go. As a matter of fact, I had mine with tea this morning.
Oh, with tea, nice.
Quite good.
Yeah, that totally works.
So.
And I'll just mention, sometimes a cigar and a Diet Dr. Pepper is a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
There you go.
I should start as we do every week on our when we talk about the cigars that we've had this week. I should start on mine by mentioning because my cigar was a Gran Habano blue and green Gran Robusto, and I should begin by mentioning I'm not a huge fan of Gran Habano's main line of cigars. I used to buy them a lot because they were relatively inexpensive, so you could get several more cigars for the same amount of money. And it wasn't that they weren't good, but they had this one particular flavor. It was kind of a grassy flavor to it. It just really wasn't to my palate. Now, I know a lot of people who love those cigars, both for the price and they like that flavor. Just for my palate, because you know how that is. Sometimes what works for me doesn't work for you.
Yeah, well, no, I totally get that.
They generally are well constructed, and the other flavors are very good. It's just that one particular flavor just isn't my favorite thing. So I kind of got away from smoking them as much as I found other cigars in that same lower price range that I liked that didn't have that, and so I stopped doing this. So I'll mention that before I tell you about the blue and green line, which is new, and it's pricier, so it's not in that same sort of $3-4 a cigar that sometimes the Gran Habano main line can be. It is wrapped in a Connecticut wrapper, which I think pretty much all of the main line of Gran Habanos are Connecticut. They're not huge, powerful cigars. They're definitely milder. But this one is a Connecticut wrapper with Nicaraguan binder and filler. And the whole length of this cigar was wrapped in a cedar tube. So a very different kind of a presentation.
Yeah, a little more
Gran
elegant
Habano.
there. Yeah.
Yes, and they were using this sort of, there's a little bit of cloth around the top and the bottom of the cedar tube, and it was kind of a purple cloth with sort of a gold-colored specks on it. So it actually looked a lot like, is it Jim Beam that comes in that blue
In the bag?
Bag.
Crown Royal.
A Crown. I'm sorry. Why was I thinking Jim Beam? It looked a little bit like a Crown
Obviously,
Royal.
never played Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, Kurt, I wasn't a big D&D. I was always playing the sci-fi games. So you can have the dragons. I'll take.
For
the
any
aliens.
of you out there that are clueless, it comes in a little drawstring bag, and that's
yeah.
what you keep your dice in.
Right, and I'm much more into the. You can have the dragons. I'll take the aliens.
I never
aliens and
very,
zombies.
Very, very rarely play them myself, but I have many friends who
Aliens and zombies for me. I'm just saying. I'm certainly a bigger geek, but what is it you always say that you're a geek, but you're.
I'm just a geek about super cool things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, so the cigar it was wrapped in a cedar tube. Pulled the tube off it. There were nice flavors on the pre-light. It was a kind of a mellow tobacco note, some hay, cedar. I used a V-cut, lit it up, and the first thing that I noticed about it was that it was quite a bit more powerful than the Gran Habanos that I was used to, even though it had the Connecticut wrapper. So it's a little deceptive because usually when you see that lighter color wrapper, you're thinking it's likely to be a milder smoke. But there was a very pleasant earthiness to the cigar. It was creamy with some punch, notes of black pepper, a little bit of breadiness to it. A really very enjoyable mix of flavors. The construction wasn't bad, but the burn was uneven. It did need tending several times as I smoked it, but it wasn't a perfect burn, but it was not something that kept me from enjoying the cigar, enjoying the flavors. I don't mind touching a cigar up as long as it's not driving me crazy and flaking all over the place. So I was surprised to find it to be just a little north of medium bodied when it was all said and done. But the happiest surprise was none of that grassy flavor that was not to my liking on the other line. So all in all, I really, really enjoyed the cigar. It's a $9 stick. I'm going to give it a solid 5. I think if it were, I didn't remember how much I had paid for it. It's been in the humidor for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
If it were a $7 cigar, I'd have probably gone a bit bigger in the number. But when I found, because I was thinking it was like a 7, 8. When I found out it was 9, I was like, well, you know what? It's worth 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'd necessarily feel the same way if I paid 10 or 11 for it.
Right.
So it's fair at 9. So the Gran Habano, blue in green, smokes a little a little unevenly down the stretch, but very, very good flavors. So I recommend it. That's where we'll send you this week. So all right, I tell you what, let's take a break because I want to get started talking and tasting Canadian whiskey, and we have some beers to taste too, and I want to find out how my guidance counselor could possibly have missed the potential career path of global Canadian
I'm a
whiskey
little
brand
angry about
ambassador,
that too.
and I want to see what we can do to prevent this wrong from happening again in the
Future
lives of young
generations.
and impressionable kids that are out there that are trying to figure out what to do with the rest of their life. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. You are listening to Smoking and Toasting, and we're on show number 141, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, I feel like my oversight on that